All right, so this is the old hitch, and you know it worked, but it thing weighs 1,000,000 pounds and is extremely bulky for what it is, and it requires these studs to be in there, not all the time, but to get them in there once and then line them up. To take them out and keep relining them to get that thing to fit is such a pain. It's so not even worth the effort. That thing either needs to stay in your truck or it needs to stay out. That's the kind of hitch this is. I can't deal with that. I need something portable, lighter, more compact, and just overall better working. So we're going to go to the B&W. So I ordered this thing on Amazon. Apparently B&W doesn't understand what UPS proof means because it's the loosest box with the heaviest stuff in it. B&W, if you're watching this, just know this box did not do well. It was about a hair away from exploding. Anyways, these pieces are the major pieces. There's really like 5 or 6 pieces to this whole thing. Super easy to assemble. And those stanchion thingies are what hold the actual fifth wheel hitch up. Right there, you see them? We're gonna install those in here. So they look like triangular, but one side's actually flat, more flat and vertical, and the other side's sloped. It doesn't terribly matter what direction they sit, but they both have to be in the same direction, and they both have to be facing in. Each pillar requires 2 nut bars and 4 bolts complete with lock washers. Loosely put the bolts in with the lock washers and put the nut bars on the side. You're gonna stick your hand inside the little well there to put the nut bar on, and we'll show you that here in a second. Whenever you get the 2 bolts into the nut bar, don't tighten it down completely. Keep it a little loose, that way you can get the other hardware and the other nut bar installed without having any issues. Note that there is 5 holes in the nut bar because there's 5 holes in the chassis, and you can move those arms up or down to change height to get the perfect fit for your trailer. I chose to go all the way down because, well, that's just how it's going to work for me. Once those 2 pieces are on, that's the major assembly. Everything else is fairly simple. You got these little spring clips, just a spring, and you got to attach the clip with a nut and a bolt, and then a little pincher that just kind of hangs on right there. You mount it so the top of the spring hangs about 1 inch below that black piece, and I kind of just pressure fit it on and hit it with a hammer and set that thing in place. It's just held on by tension. There are 2 of these you'll need to assemble, and one goes on the other side, and these springs keep the actual fifth wheel tensioned so it doesn't shake around all over the place, and it's in perfect position when you go to actually mount your trailer. And once you do this to the other side, there's really only one other piece you have to install. This thing. Believe it or not, this thing is heavier than that whole assembled base. But the fact that this comes in 2 pieces means that it's super easy to disassemble and super easy to transport. Yeah, you'll have to make 2 trips, but so what? You won't break your back doing it. The lock mechanism is right here, and you'll just have to attach an adjacent lock bar that attaches with 2 bolts. But it has 3 holes. The last hole is for this pin. Now, I'm not terribly impressed with the pin. I'm impressed with everything else, but they give you this crappy little pin. If you want to trust it, then that's on you, but personally, I would go and get a lock. But for installation purposes, we'll go ahead and show you how the whole thing works anyways. In addition to the socket, you'll need an Allen wrench to install this. Also, no tools come with this thing, it just comes with parts and it expects you to have the tools. But you really don't need much to install this whole thing. In fact, what you saw us use that's all we use, what, like 2 or 3 things? I think I got a screwdriver in there, some small pliers to get that little section, and that's it. All I gotta do is mount that little tensioning spring on the other side. Since I'm doing this, I should note that I made the straight end towards the orange information sticker and I left the sloped ends facing towards the companion. I only did that because that's how it's shown in the instructions. It kind of makes sense that you want the companion because this end will face toward your tailgate and the flat end will face toward your cab. And the flat end is where you mount those tensioning springs, and they will always keep your fifth wheel hitch pitched backwards and not shaking down the road back and forth. You lift those 2 handles on each side in order for it to slip over the base, and then you put those pins to lock it in. And each of these pins have pins on the other side so they don't fly out down the road. And all that's left is that janky little pin in the lock arm. So once we put that thing in, we'll test how heavy this thing really is with both pieces. We already know it's fairly light, broken apart. Yeah, not bad. I mean, if you're a fairly reasonably strong person, you just lift this whole thing instead of breaking it in 2. So we're gonna go ahead and just muscle it in there. I bought this for a Ford F350. Obviously the model will vary with your truck, but I'd imagine whatever it is will mount fairly the same way. So these need to be sticking straight out, then they will fit right in those companion holes. And then once they're in, what I should have got was a rubber mallet or a dead blow hammer to tap those back in onto the current tension, because I probably would have done it. What I did do was what everybody else did from videos, is pull the carter pin out and then put them in there and then try to tighten down the bolt, and it doesn't actually work very well. I ended up having to retighten the bolts to a certain extent just to get the carter pin in. Had to use brand new carter pins, and then I had to hit it with a hammer anyways to get those in. In short, I made the truck installation way more complicated and much longer than it had to be. This could have gone in much easier, but I just did this for you, so just remember that. None of this, I'm showing you this if you went this far or if you think you have to go this far, but really, you probably just need a hammer. And those will tap right in there, tension into the companion locks, and you're set to go. The design of the B&W hitch is almost perfect. Look at the slim design, the conservative nature yet elegant that it has, the simplicity. No more of this. No more studs in the back that you have to mount that onto anyways, that makes it impossible for you to use your truck bed for anything else. This thing, I'm selling it on the marketplace for $100. Keeping this thing forever. We'll give you a quick look at how they seat right there on the companion locks. Make sure to give each end a proper shake, because just because the bolt feels tight on top does not mean it's actually tight at all. Hence why it was better for me to slightly bang the levers with a soft hammer, so these just tension right in place. Whatever works for you. The bigger thing about this, it's so simplistic and yet elegant, and so easy to assemble that it's probably really easy to rip off and steal. So don't keep this in the back of your truck unless you're really hauling the load. Take it apart, put it in your garage safely, and then when it's time, mount it up. It takes a minute or two, and you're ready to just go ahead and mount your trailer. I really like everything about this hitch except for this little pin. That thing is garbage. Utter garbage. Like, it's small. Like, it barely clears the hole by the time you get it through here. And this thing swings so freely. It's really nice and elegant, but it's terrifying. But the way that this can lock and but the way that it can swing open and deactivate is just equally as nice, but equally as terrifying. The only thing that's keeping this thing from flying off, taking out your tailgate, and taking out a family on the road is that little pin, and it's just not good. So, put a lock. I would trust this way more than I would ever trust that little pin. That's just how it is. Just get a nice, decent lock. And now, to do what I really needed this thing to do, come off very easily. B&W makes fantastic looking fifth wheel and bumper toe hitches, but all the elegance and sleekness is really nothing without the versatility. The versatility is why I bought this thing and why I don't regret spending all that money on it. I like to run a toy hauler and stick as many toys as I possibly can for the family, including a small little fishing boat that I use to fish the lakes out here in Williams, Arizona. And the Milhouse skiff here is a super light boat that can be truck bettable, but not with those studs back there and not with that stupid hitch I had to move all the time. Time flies by in an instant. You blink and it's gone. I wasted all my youth wishing I was an adult. Now all I wish is that I could be a kid again. All I want is more time. My kids are growing up. Soon they'll be gone to go off and lead their own lives. And some of the only things that we'll have are these memories that we create. You can blow and waste money. They make more and more of it every day. But the one thing you can never sacrifice is time. We all have a finite amount of it, so use it wisely.